Is it possible that a set of wooden tablets with ancient glyphs handed down over the centuries carried the true history of the Native American Lenni Lenape people? Is it possible that this history even overlaps the biblical accounts so strongly that they are actually retelling the same past about creation, the beginning of mankind, Satan's role in corrupting the earth and humanity, the worldwide flood, and Noah's role in saving the human line? Join us on this journey to find out. It was Monday, October 16th, 1679. Dutch traveler Jasper Dankaerts meets an 80-year-old Lenni Lenape native man in present-day New Jersey. Jasper records the following. In the morning, there came an Indian to our house, a man about 80 years of age, whom our people called Jasper, who lived at a Hackensack or at Acconin. We asked him where he believed he came from. He answered, from his father. And where did your father come from? We said. And your grandfather and great-grandfather and so on to the first of the race. He was silent for a little while, then took a piece of coal out of the fire where he sat and began to write upon the floor. He first drew a circle, a little oval, to which he made 4 paws or feet, a head and a tail. This, said he, is a tortoise lying in the water around it. And he moved his hand round the figure, continuing, this was or is all water, and so at first was the world, or the earth. When the tortoise gradually raised its round back up high, and the water ran off of it, and thus the earth became dry. He then took a little straw and placed it on end in the middle of the figure, and proceeded. The earth was now dry, and there grew a tree in the middle of the earth. And the root of this tree sent forth a sprout beside it, and there grew upon it a man, who is the first male. This man was then alone, and would have remained alone, but the tree bent over until its top touched the earth, and there shot therein another root, from which came forth another sprout, and there grew upon it the woman. And from these two are all men produced. 141 years after this event, another Lenape native, a tribal historian named Olum became ill and was brought to health with the help of a Dr. Ward. In return, Olum gave him the Walam Olum, a set of 183 glyphs engraved and painted on wooden tablets that describe the history of the Lenape people going back millennia. In 1822, Ward gave them to a friend, Constantine Samuel Rafinesque, a professor at Transylvania University in Kentucky, who is fluent in over 12 languages. After 14 years of carefully deciphering the glyphs, with the help from both European and native experts, he published the Walam Olum in book form in 1836. So, why are these two events important? How are they connected? Well, the 1679 origin account overlaps strongly with the Walam Olum. Even though these accounts are separated by over 100 years, they share 10 common elements regarding how God framed the world and mankind, even using very similar graphical representations, and it only gets more amazing. The Walam Olum carries the history of the Lenni Lenape people for centuries, all the way back to the beginning, where it describes the Creator, the great Manitou, creating the world, sun, moon, stars, land, water, and all living things. Then creation harmony is disrupted when the evil Manitou, the black snake, brings chaos, sickness, death, and conflict into the world. Next comes a catastrophic flood, but humanity is rescued by Nanabush, the grandfather of all men, their version of Noah. Similar flood accounts are echoed in over 300 native stories. As their story continues, thousands of them head to America, crossing the Bering Sea. A series of 95 chiefs lead them across America, eventually settling on the East Coast. Along this journey, they face harsh climates, beasts, famine, and wars with the dreaded snake people, called the Makowini, or the Big Men, giants who practiced dark magic who were associated with the evil snake. The last glyph describes encountering white men on ships in 1620 and reads, "Who are they?" When the Walam Olum first came on the scene, it was put under tough scrutiny by heavyweight scholars of the 19th century. Scholars like Daniel Brinton and Smithsonian author E.G. Squire published extensive studies boldly supporting the Walam Olum as authentic Lenape history. A later publication of the Indiana Historical Society in 1954 also largely supported its credibility. Then, in the 1990s, the Walam Olum came under attack by those who were threatened by just how strongly it aligned with Scripture, causing some to lose faith in its credibility. But the tables turned just a few years ago when Harvard-trained geneticist Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson revealed overwhelming support for its validity. By tracing the Y chromosome markers passed down from father to son across generations, Jeanson confirmed the migratory routes, direction, and even timing in the Walam Olum. Other researchers like David McCutcheon and E.P. Grandin have also confirmed the Walam Olum migration route using archaeological evidence that was discovered well after it was published. Grandin points out that it would require Rafinesque to have superhuman imagination to dream up the migration account and timing described in the Walam Olum, because there's no way he could have possibly known where at least 6 of the tribes described in the Walam Olum lived. Information only confirmed by archaeological findings after the Walam Olum was recorded by Rafinesque. Grandin explains that another really stunning coincidence is the burning of the stockades described in the Walam Olum. And if Rafinesque dreamed this up 150 years before the stockades at Cahokia and Angel Mounds were excavated, then one would have to admit that he had an unbelievably great creative talent. Grandin also doesn't believe Rafinesque could have pushed a forgery past Brinton, a commanding scholar who knew the language and culture well. Now, let's take a closer look at how the Walam Olum overlaps biblical history. But first, consider that it's actually the dissimilarities between the Bible and the Walam Olum that support its validity. If it was forgery made to just replicate the Bible's creation account, it would certainly not credit Satan for creating gnats, mosquitoes, and giant reptiles. It also would certainly not credit him for sending the flood, which was God's judgment on mankind. The Walam Olum's account of giants, which fits well within the framework of Scripture, was also not a common teaching at the time, and certainly would have not been emphasized by a forger. Even with these distinctions, the Walam Olum has incredible overlap with the Bible. We have the one great Manitou who made all things, beginning first with the earth, filling it with everything needed for life, then creating man and woman after. There's the evil black snake, hater of mankind, who brought turmoil and evil, and later the Makawini, the big men, or giants. This giant theme is also shared by at least 20 other Native American tribes. The giant reality in North America was even acknowledged by Abraham Lincoln and is confirmed by 885 records made by over 1,100 people who documented at least 3,000 giant skeletons discovered in North America. Many neighboring tribes, and even the Lenape themselves, were known to record their histories using wampum belts, bark, and wood tablets. They were even known to memorize songs connected to the glyphs, so long lines of chiefs and significant events could be easily memorized, just like the Walam Olum. We've documented several examples in our book about the Walam Olum. We even have eyewitness testimony from Nicholas Creswell in 1775 confirming that northeastern tribes transmitted their knowledge of past times by handing it down by hieroglyphs or traditions. In 1932, leading northeastern tribe researcher Frank Speck interviewed the hereditary successor to the line of Delaware chiefs named Joseph Montour, who said that he remembered the Delaware keeping records on wood, and even remembered an older tribesman referring to records that were called painted red or written red, records that existed and were known to the Delawares of his own and the preceding generation. Speck states, "I have no hesitation in affirming the authenticity of the Walam Olum, the Red Score, or whatever title such a document of tribal history bears, as a form of native iconography known to the Delawares of historic times, and as being a vivid memory of tradition in the mind of Joseph Montour. an undisputably reliable source of Delaware customs and language. There's even evidence that the original Walam Olum tablets were bundled in sets because Rafinesque's original translation includes horizontal brackets at the end of the first and second songs after the 16th, 32nd, 48th, and 64th verses of the fourth song, and after the 20th and 40th verses in Song 5. Thus, at every 16 and 24 lines, there is a bracket. Most of these are natural breaks in the story, but it may be that they mark 10 bundles of record sticks. Finally, there's the elephant in the room. The Walam Olum clearly documents a worldwide flood that was the result of the evil black snake bringing havoc into the world and humanity being saved by a single man, their Noah, called Nanabush, whom they refer to as the grandfather of all men, who saves humanity by a giant boat called the Turtle's Back in glyphs 2, 8 through 10. Echoes of Ararat documents over 300 flood legends in the Americas, and most of them have an incredible overlap with the Bible. Some are even right on top of biblical history, with the Toltecs placing the worldwide flood 1,716 years after the creation of the world, which is within just 100 years of the biblical time frame. Their story includes the Toplapet Lackali, an enclosed floating vessel, like an ark, and history stating that men multiplied and made a very high Zequali, which means the highest tower, after the flood, just like the Babel dispersion account in Genesis. This account also reports that languages were changed and people were scattered to different parts of the world. They said they arrived in Mexico 520 years after the flood had passed. This is all incredibly matching to the biblical account. Regarding North American tribes, Squire states, the idea of a destruction of the world by water seems to have been a general amongst the Algonquin nations. The traditionary details vary in almost every instance where they have been recorded, but the traditionary event stands out prominently. The catastrophe is in all cases ascribed to the evil spirit, who, as already observed, was symbolized as a great serpent. All of this evidence has led our ministry to endorse the Walam Olum as an original, credible source of Native American history that clearly supports the Bible by overlapping its major themes, showing how they were carried by people across the globe after Babel. We would encourage you to watch our movie, Out of Babel, for more about the Walam Olum, and consider downloading our book that expands on the evidence we covered in this short video.